Everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about how I've used ChatGPT to support with some data aggregation and data review. So in my previous role, we did a lot of volunteer coordination. So oftentimes we would have students who would reach out to us to confirm the amount of times that they volunteered because we would have to certify that information. So we would have to go on the back end to make sure that information was correct with what they provided. So what that data looks like on our end is that we have a lot of different entries of the names of our volunteers, along with the amount of time that they volunteered with us. And it used to be a very manual process, but we use ChatGPT to help us be able to determine the amount of time that volunteers worked with us a little bit more quickly. So firstly, we would sort by the volunteer's name. And then here I'm just showing an example of a prompt that we can use in ChatGPT to determine a formula that we can use in Google Forms so we can kind of quickly sum up all of the hours of a volunteer. So the first iteration of this prompt, we see a response where it tells us to put in some of a certain column, for example, B, which works in a lot of cases. But in my case, we needed to also confirm that the hours that were being added up also accounted for the name of the volunteer that we wanted to determine the hours for. And so we see here at the bottom where we get the formula sum if, and then we have a column, and then we are able to put a certain condition. So for example, if our volunteer's name was Sarah, and then we're summing up the column, whatever other column that we specified where our hours are at. So that ultimately allows us to put this formula in our Google Forms. And then I also added some asterisks, which also captures other, like if there's like a spelling, like if Janet was spelled with an I instead of an E, it would capture that as well. And so that's kind of just a one-to-one way that we were able to use ChatGPT to make this process go a little bit faster and be a little bit more dynamic. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how we've done that in the future. Depending on our needs, ChatGPT could also really be helpful for us to kind of scale up and make it more automated. So like a scripts type of situation. But with our use cases right now, we found that this was pretty efficient. So that's my demo.